A ship, perfectly seaworthy, sailing aimlessly in the vast, unforgiving Atlantic Ocean. Its sails are slightly tattered but still set. Its cargo, thousands of barrels of industrial alcohol, is completely untouched. Below deck, there's plenty of food and fresh water, enough for months. Personal belongings are neatly stowed in the crew's quarters. Everything seems normal, except for one chilling detail. There's not a single soul on board. No captain, no crew, not even a ship's cat. This isn't the opening scene of a horror movie. This is the true story of the Mary Celeste, the world's most famous ghost ship. What could have possibly happened to the 10 people who were supposed to be on that vessel? Stick around as we dive deep into one of history's most enduring maritime mysteries. On December 4th, 1872, the crew of a British brigantine called the Dei Gratia spotted a ship drifting erratically about 400 miles off the coast of the Azores. As they drew closer, they recognized it as the American vessel, the Mary Celeste. They had actually dined with its captain, Benjamin Briggs, in New York just before both ships set sail. Concerned, the captain of the Dei Gratia, David Morehouse, hailed the ship. Silence. He hailed again. Nothing. A strange and unnerving feeling settled over the crew. Something was terribly wrong. Morehouse sent his first mate and a few sailors over in a small boat to investigate. What they found was a scene of eerie normalcy frozen in time. The ship was wet, with about 3.5 feet of water in the hold, which was manageable for a wooden ship of that era, but certainly not enough to cause panic. The ship's logbook was found in the mate's cabin. Its final entry was dated 10 days earlier, on November 25th. It simply recorded the ship's position, noting they were just off the Azores island of Santa Maria. There was no mention of any distress, no hint of trouble. The crew's belongings were still in their quarters. Valuables, including money and jewelry, were left untouched. In Captain Briggs's cabin, they found his personal effects, along with toys belonging to his 2-year-old daughter, Sophia, who was on the voyage with her mother, Sarah. The only things missing were the ship's single lifeboat, its chronometer, and the sextant, crucial navigational tools. It was as if the captain, his wife, his daughter, and the 7-man crew had vanished into thin air, but not before carefully planning to leave. Why? Why would 10 people abandon a perfectly sound ship in the middle of the ocean? This question has baffled historians, sailors, and amateur sleuths for over 150 years. The first and most obvious theory was pirates. The golden age of piracy was over, but buccaneers still roamed some corners of the seas. However, this theory quickly falls apart under scrutiny. A valuable cargo of denatured alcohol was untouched. The crew's personal possessions, including cash, were still there. Pirates are in the business of plunder, and nothing on the Mary Celeste had been plundered. So, if not pirates, what about a mutiny? This was a popular theory at the time. Perhaps the crew, fueled by alcohol from the cargo, rose up against Captain Briggs, murdered him and his family, and then escaped in the lifeboat. But this doesn't hold water either. Captain Briggs was known as a fair and experienced captain, and his chosen crew was highly regarded. There was no evidence of a struggle on board. No signs of violence, no bloodstains. Furthermore, if the crew had mutinied, why would they flee in a small, vulnerable lifeboat, leaving behind a much larger, safer ship? It just doesn't make sense. So, we move on to the more plausible, natural explanations. One of the leading theories involves a massive storm or a seismic sea event, like an underwater earthquake or a rogue wave. A sudden, violent lurch of the ship or a terrifying waterspout could have terrified the crew. Maybe the main pump was found to be malfunctioning, making them believe the ship was taking on water faster than it actually was. In a moment of panic, Captain Briggs might have ordered everyone into the lifeboat as a temporary precaution, perhaps tethering it to the main ship, intending to wait out the perceived danger. But then, A sudden gust of wind could have snapped the rope, or the weather could have separated them, leaving them adrift in a tiny boat while their perfectly good ship sailed away without them. This scenario explains why they took the navigational instruments and why they left in a hurry, but it's still just a guess. Another fascinating and scientifically grounded theory revolves around the ship's cargo, 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol. While the barrels were found secure, 9 of them were empty. These 9 were made of red oak, which is more porous than the white oak used for the other barrels. The theory goes that some of the alcohol could have vaporized and leaked out, creating a highly flammable cloud of fumes in the cargo hold. A spark, maybe from metal tools rubbing together, could have ignited these fumes, causing a dramatic but non-destructive pressure wave explosion. Imagine a giant fiery whoosh that blew off the hatch covers but did little damage to the ship itself. Faced with what they thought was an imminent, catastrophic explosion, Captain Briggs would have made the logical choice: get everyone off the ship immediately. He'd order his family and crew into the lifeboat, taking the chronometer and sextant to track their position, fully intending to return once the danger had passed. They might have trailed the Mary Celeste on a long tow line, but if the weather turned or the line snapped, they would be lost, watching their ship sail away, a silent testament to their tragic split-second decision. This theory neatly explains the missing lifeboat, the navigational tools, and the lack of any real damage to the ship. It paints a picture not of violence or panic, but of a responsible captain making a calculated, albeit ultimately fatal, decision. Of course, the mystery has also attracted its fair share of wilder speculations. Everything from an attack by a giant squid or sea monster to alien abduction has been proposed over the years. These ideas make for great stories, but they lack any shred of evidence. The truth is likely far more mundane, yet no less tragic. A combination of unforeseen circumstances, a moment of misjudgment, and the raw power of the ocean. In the end, we simply don't know. No wreckage of the lifeboat was ever found. The bodies of Captain Briggs, his family, and his crew were never recovered. They were simply gone. The Mary Celeste itself was sailed to Gibraltar by the crew of the Dei Gratia, who claimed a salvage reward. The ship would go on to have a rather unlucky career, changing hands 17 times before its last owner deliberately ran it aground in Haiti in an attempt to commit insurance fraud in 1885. But the ship's legacy was already cemented. It had become a legend, a maritime ghost story passed down through generations. It serves as a haunting reminder of the sea's immense power and its deep, dark secrets. Whatever truly happened in those 10 days between the last log entry and its discovery, the fate of the 10 souls aboard the Mary Celeste is a puzzle that time is locked away and the ocean refuses to give up the key. The Mary Celeste sails on, not on water, but in our collective imagination, as the ocean's greatest and most enduring mystery. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the unknown. What do you think happened to the crew? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this dive into history's great mysteries, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. We'll see you next time.